So Godiragetse, thank you very much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership. But before we walk into the future, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where did you grow up?
Sure. My name is Goodie, short for Godiragetse. So I'm actually from Hammanskraal, which is north of Pretoria. And yeah, born and bred there, and spent most of my childhood, in that area, and later came to Johannesburg to start, university.
And tell us, what was your dream career when you grew up?
Yeah. I don't know if I had a dream career. I knew that, somehow I would be in a space where I can have quite a lot of impact, right? So I always wanted that. I always wanted to change people's lives and, have a positive impact into, the community. And, with more research and, with more experience, I actually realized that it's with business, right? That you can, impact quite a lot of people. And that's when I decided to go all in.
And tell us, who inspired you in your early days?
So, I mean, I think it would have to be, the people closest to me, my mom, and, my sister and them. Those are the people that, because they were so close to me and they were doing, in their own spaces, were the ones that I was drawing quite a lot of inspiration from. And yeah, those are the people closest to me. I mean, I know a lot of people would say celebrities and that, but I think for me, it was just the people in my area that, definitely pushed me to reach my goals.
Okay, now you're the founder of Car Delivery Speed and also a school, right? A tutoring school. Can you tell us a little bit more about your two businesses?
Yeah, so the first one is Goodie Tutors. So Goodie Tutors is basically a tutoring agency, right? So we tutor kids from grade 1 to third year university nationwide in South Africa, and actually run a couple of B2B programs with some big brands like Kaiser Chiefs and Growth Point, and Century Properties, just to name a few. So that's what the business does. It employs quite a lot of tutors who are university students in a range of 300 to 400 nationwide, and that business is 5 years old. And then with Godiragetse Speed, that's my latest business. So that's basically a food delivery business in the township, right? Similar to Mr. D and Uber Eats, but we do that in the township, and we use electric scooters and WhatsApp chatbot to process orders.
Right. And Godiragetse, what would you say is driving you today?
Same thing that got me into business in the in the early stages, which is impact, right? I think there's quite a lot of impact that I still need to make in my community and in the small areas that I'm in. And even today, that's still the one thing that wakes me up at the end at in the beginning of the day to go out there and just push to have more positive impact within my two businesses. Yeah.
Now, Godiragetse, talking about the future, and I know it's a big question, but what does the future of leadership mean to you?
Sure. So, I mean, for me, the future of leadership, I mean, I'm 24, right? And I started my business at a very early age, of 18, 19, my first business. And, I think, I struggled quite a bit, with, being taken seriously, because of my age. And, I see there is a gradual, move from that perception, and people look at leaders not because of their age, but because of what they can bring to the table, right? And the mind, right? More than just the age and the experience. So that's how I see the future of leadership being, right? I mean, you check in the US, most of the CEOs, are young people generally, right? And I think Africa and South Africa, at some point in the future, it will catch up to that, and we'll have more and more leaders who are young people.
And Goodie, what would you say needs to be done? What should we be doing more to encourage future leaders and empower future leaders like yourself?
Sure. I think we just need to, create spaces, right? And give opportunities, to especially young kids at school, right? To let them know that, it's not just the umbrella approach whereby we all have to go to university after school. We all have to get that degree. We all have to get that diploma after school, right? I think entrepreneurship should be given a serious, consideration, and the kids should consider it immediately after finishing their school, to consider entrepreneurship, and so that they can start creating jobs, right? So I think that's something that government can try to enforce, to make sure that the same way that they're pushing for school kids to go to university, they should push for kids to become entrepreneurs and business owners.
And Goodie, what is it that you tell your students about social media? How should they navigate social media to build their own personal brand?
Yeah, so I mean, I always tell my students that you just have to be careful with with social media. There's quite a lot of good things that you can get from it, but even more bad things that you can get from social media. So have a clear strategy on how you want to portray yourself on social media, and also understand that every content that you see on social media is not 100% the story, right? There's always something behind. You're just seeing the end result. You're not seeing the process, right? So that's what I always tell my students, that social media can be good for you if you use it right? And don't let it move you into certain spaces, or don't let it move you into having your day being in a certain way because you want to take a picture just so you can post it on social media, right? You should control social media and not the other way around. Yeah.
Right. And tell us, what is your advice for future leaders in terms of challenges? What are some of the biggest challenges they should expect to encounter in their career?
Yeah, so I mean, I think getting into the space of entrepreneurship, challenges is obviously the first thing that you will always encounter, right? At every stage of the business, and I just believe that, challenges just make you more stronger, and, you can't have the same challenge coming twice, right? So every challenge that you go through, make sure you don't have that challenge again, and it just builds a tougher skin, right? So all I could say, to the future leaders is, yes, embrace challenges, look forward to them, so that you can solve them, and make sure that when you solve them, quite a lot of people benefit, from those solutions. So yeah, challenges are definitely, there for leaders. Yeah.
And tell us, Goodie, what are some of the new skills you would recommend future leaders should learn and master?
Sure. So, I mean, looking at where the world is going, I think, and this is something that I also struggled with because I just did, my business degree and that. I think, as business leaders and future leaders, we should also, have our ducks in a row in terms of tech, right? Make sure you understand the lingo, make sure you understand, the technicalities. You don't have to be a software engineer or that, but make sure that, you understand, the titles and who's, the jobs within that space, because there's more and more tech that's coming up into the future, and as a future leader you don't want to be in a space where you are clueless with regards to tech, right? So I would advise that future leaders to start investing today, either a short course or something, just to get them a bit of knowledge about tech.
And Goodie, as a mentor to future leaders, can you maybe share a success story or two where you mentored an upcoming leader and they took your advice to heart?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, in my business, I meet quite a lot of, students at Goodie Tutors who obviously are tutors, and, they are very entrepreneurial themselves. And, we sometimes meet. I'm actually in the business with one of them now, and it was clear to them that, you need to, their business was more B2C. And because of the economics of B2C, it didn't make sense. And, I advised that, look, maybe you should consider B2B, right? Because that's where your business will, one, get the margins, two, do less work in terms of marketing and that, but you still get the enough revenue or sales to sustain you, for the long run. And that's something that they have done very well. And they just signed a contract with BDO, South Africa. So yeah, those are some of the guys that I have been able to advise.
Great. And Goodie, tell us, who are the role models of leadership that you would suggest, recommend future leaders should study?
Sure. I mean, my favorite is obviously Steve Jobs. I think I spent, a day. I can't go over a day without, watching at least one video from him on YouTube. So I think, he was a brilliant entrepreneur, and he had quite a lot of insight, on tech, on quality, on customer service, on making sure that, you always start with the customer, right? Not the other way around. So that's the one person that, I would say, most future leaders should look up to, and just do more research about him, how he did his work, and try to, take that into their own businesses.
And Goodie, tell us, how can our listeners get hold of you? How can they connect with you? And where should they follow you?
Sure. So I'm on all the social media platforms with my full name, Godiragetse Mogajane. So on Facebook, on Instagram, and as well as on LinkedIn. And for my businesses, you can go to their own website, which is www.goodietutors.com and delivericaspeed.com.
And last but not least, Goodie, what is your message to the millions of kids out there who are now starting to consider a career? What would you tell them? What should they do to be successful?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would definitely alert them, right, that it's not all good and fancy and, money and all of that, right? It is quite hard. You wake up and you're faced with challenges. The world is not excited that, you're creating jobs and, you're doing all those things. The world will just throw more problems to you, right? So I think that's the one thing that, if you are not able to cope with quite a lot of problems and you're not the solutions person, you're going to struggle a bit. So before you get into this space, just make sure that you are ready for the problems and the challenges. But one thing I can say is that it is worth it. Once you solve those problems, once you solve those challenges, it's just something that's beautiful. And one, if you're also creating impact for your community and you can see people's lives changing, you can see them moving, in terms of their standard of living because of the impact that you have with your businesses, it is rewarding, right? And that's basically, it should be your why you want to be in business in the first place.
Well, Goodie, thank you so much for sharing your insights into the future of leadership and leading the way, being a role model, and showing us what can be done.
Awesome. No, thank you so much for having me.